Hello and welcome to Jockeys, the podcast. I'm Adam McNamara, and this is the racing podcast where we strip away the guarded versions of jockeys that you see every day on TV, giving them the platform to tell us what they really think. We talk about their regrets and aspirations, and we have a couple of laughs along the way as well.
In this episode, David Egan.
Can we swear on this or not? No.
Yeah, kick on.
And I was never happy with myself. I said, I look not that I was taking it for granted, but I wasn't enjoying it. I was need to get the next one. Negative messages from fans or punters or whatever doesn't really have an effect on me. I love the scene when he's going, check, 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 check,
Yeah.
bloody check.
Welcome to Jockeys, the podcast, Dave. It's good to have you on. I want to start firstly with what you do outside of racing, sort of hobbies, interests, and what David Egan's getting up to on a day off.
Day off is... I have probably two main hobbies that I really enjoy. One's the usual jockey plays golf on his day off on a nice day, which I do enjoy that. Lots of jockeys play, and say there's a Sunday with no race, and there is a good bunch of us that would make a day of it, which is nice. It's a real turn your phone off, get away from everything, and try and make a few quid, I suppose. Light-hearted bets between ourselves, and yeah, it really just takes your mind away from the whole.
And tell me
racing, thing.
Who's making the money on these days? So if there's a bunch of you, I want to know who's going along to play the golf, and when everything's said and done, who's coming out on top?
Kieran Fallon would always put himself into a position that no matter what, he's making money. He's very, very shrewd like that. But nah, it's nothing too serious. But it's whoever gets the money is some more taking the picture, handing the fiver over, shaking the hand. It's a tough beat to take. And then the other one would be poker, which is a little bit random. Don't know if many others play it, but it's something I really enjoy, and I study the game quite a lot. I'm not a gambler, you could say, but I actually just enjoy the whole sort of mathematics of it, psychology of it, reading people, which I really think it helps me in the general line of business that we're all in and I'm in. Reading people is a very important thing, I think, in the game.
And I love this. Poker's it's something I'm fascinated by. I can't say I'm any good at it, but I remember watching. Have you seen Rounders?
Yeah, probably the best poker film of all time.
Yeah, I remember watching that years and years ago. When you watch something like Rounders, I think there's both sides, but there's the mathematical sort of analysis of it, and then there's a psychology bit. And I think the end of that movie, albeit it's just a movie, the end of it was very much the psychology is more important, because you can dive into the numbers and so on. But it's beating the madness.
That last scene with Damon was obviously reading your man throughout the whole film, goes back and real Hollywood, goes back and risks it all and gets it all. So it was I love the scene when he's going check, 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 bloody check.
So yeah, we'll stick with psychology then, because I think this is really interesting. You said that it has a role in your job. So presumably you can draw lines across from sitting at a poker table with someone and sort of working out the psychology and reading them, and you can translate that across to what you need to do in your day-to-day life. But I'm interested into what exactly is it, where are you drawing the lines? What is it in your job where you're using your poker skills, let's say?
Yeah, I wouldn't class myself as a super intelligent person. Like, we're watching the Masters this week, listening to Bryson DeChambeau explaining his why he does certain things, and he's an absolute genius. I'm nowhere near that, but I think it's just something that gives me a good almost instinctive edge that I can read the room, read a person, and kind of know the right things to say, the wrong things to say, the right things to do, which, as you know, as a jockey, it's very important to perceive yourself in the right manner, to make yourself look like the proper jockey, act like a jockey, say the right things, do the right things, because so many jockeys with such ability that maybe can't say the right things, can't put themselves in the right situations, and they don't get the best opportunities. So I think you have to give yourself every chance, and maybe that's something I do.
But is there two ways of looking at that? Because I feel like, say for example, when I rode, I felt like I was always really socially awkward as a kid and quite shy. And
Yeah.
then obviously people I'm comfortable with, I'm like, you'll know, I'm quite outgoing. I wouldn't say I'm
Yeah,
shy around people that I
absolutely.
know. But when I was dealing with, say, owners, trainers, because I was socially awkward, I sort of created a persona that I thought they wanted to see. And
Yeah,
looking back
switch
now, I
on,
always,
switch off. You're like a different person
yeah,
almost. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. But I kind of looking back now, and it's easy to look back in hindsight because I retired at 25 after a fairly unsuccessful career. But looking back at it now, I feel like
It
I wish
wasn't
I
an
hadn't have done that. And
unsuccessful career, Adam.
well, it depends how
You
you
wouldn't
define
call
it.
it.
But I would. But
What, winning an Evo?
yeah, I'd one good day. We'll take
Yeah.
that. But yeah, looking back at it now, I wish like I had been more myself. And again,
Mm.
maybe that wouldn't have worked, but I feel like in hindsight, I wish I had. So is there a line where you're you've gone too far and you're too much playing the role of what you think people want to see versus who you actually are?
I don't think you have to change. I think you have to be a bit like liquid, change with let yourself mold yourself into how you have to, not how I have to act, but don't completely change yourself. But um,
You're trying to
even
find a balance.
you don't have to act like one specific thing all the time, because people say that's what he's like. Oh, he's always I don't know, sad, depressed all the time. And I saw him the other day and he was bouncing around and he's not acting himself. Well, actually, you can act however you want. It doesn't matter what you do. So I think that's very important, to be confident in yourself, and you don't have to be anyone else. Be yourself, but do the right things. That's very important.
And so do you feel like you've got to a position now that you feel like you're confident enough to do that, or have you always felt like that from when you began? Like when you started out as an
Oh
apprentice,
yeah,
let's say,
at the
would you have
big
been?
at the beginning, you start off and you're laser focused, no distractions. Start off, not that I drink now anyway, but gym every day. Nothing matters. Don't care what people sort of, not so much your loved ones, but um, for me, my job was the be all and end all, and it still is. But I have a lot better perception that family, friends, things like that are more important than your job. But there was probably certain times at the very beginning that nothing else mattered. I didn't care if, I'm not going to say if someone died, but like I really had an intense mind frame that I was going to make it and that's it. And I didn't care what happened around me, what distractions, it didn't matter. I was going to still be that sort of grind every day, keep going, trying as hard as I can, and making it no matter what. And I think to a point you have to be like that at the very beginning to break through. So many people trying to throw their names in the hat, very little make it through stage one, let alone stage two and onwards and onwards. And I'm lucky I've made it as a career, and I love my job. I couldn't think of myself doing anything else. Obviously, if I couldn't ride, I would have to do something else. But I'm looking back, I'm glad I made the sacrifices I did to get here. I think now,
Mm.
not that you can relax, but you can probably let your guard down a little bit, knowing that your riding ability and your ability to speak to people and sort of present yourself in a certain manner, that you don't have to be as guarded. That's for sure.
And when did that change for you? Because obviously you, at the beginning of your career, fully intense, committed, sacrifice and everything. You get to a point. Is there a point in your career that you look back on now where you can pinpoint and say, yeah, that's when it changed. That's when I realized there was.
And it's not me saying I've made it, Adam, in any way. It's like I haven't got to half of what I want to achieve, but there just comes a time. I don't know. I don't think there's a specific point. I think you're always living in the present, and I think it's only really now, me talking to you, looking back, I am proud of what I've accomplished, the hard work I've put in, but I wouldn't change anything. I had the mindset at the moment, and even me going forward, I still have that mindset, but you probably just appreciate it a lot more, I think. Whereas when you're maybe getting little accomplishments along the way, I definitely didn't appreciate it at the time. Not that I was taking it for granted, but I wasn't enjoying it. I was need to get the next one, need to get the next one, need to get the next one. I think, yeah.
Tell me about, because, and this is another thing that I'm fascinated about, generally just through my own experience. But I felt like I said, that early part of your career when everything is so intense and you just want to get to the next level, there were milestones or achievements that I went through that now, like you said, upon reflection, I'm like, yeah, that was really good. I'm quite proud of that. But at the time, when it happens, you probably don't enjoy it as much. Like I remember my first winner feeling like all I wanted was the first winner. You know, when you start out, you think like it's almost an impossible achievement. You feel like
you're
once
never
you
gonna get it. I'm not good
Yeah.
enough until I ride a winner, and until I ride a winner, I'm useless.
You're a loser
Yeah.
until you ride a winner. But then I rode that winner, and I remember immediately feeling just relief, and then need another one.
See,
There was no like in the moment enjoying it.
I was the opposite. Can we swear on this or not? No.
Yeah, kick on.
I was the exact same as you. Couldn't wait to get my first winner. That's all that mattered. I needed to get that to prove myself. And then I rode my first winner, and I was never happy with myself. I said, I look shit. I need to get better. And that drove me on. And that was a real, I had a real, not worry about what people thought of me, but worry about like looking good, always looking like a good jockey and acting like a good jockey. That was really important, rather than actually riding all the winners and riding all the good races. Like I would be pleased with myself if I went to, no offense, someone like Bath, rode a good race, looked good, looked strong. Like if anyone happened to just look at that race, I'd be happy to say, yeah, I was good there. And you have to do that to build and build and build to get to where you want at the top level. And I think it's good for me, and it helps me drive me on and get better all the time, that I'm never completely satisfied. There's always something I can change or shift, or having that mindset's really important, not to ease. I say to you earlier on that I'm enjoying things a lot more and satisfied of where I am. I'm very proud of myself, but I'm still not content. That's important, not to sit on your laurels.
But I think, isn't that, like, when you listen to, and it's not just jockeys, but when you listen to footballers, boxers, golfers, whatever it is, or Formula One drivers, there's always like an underlying sense I always get that, like, say, for example, Verstappen can win 4 world championships, but he doesn't ever seem satisfied. You watch like AP McCoy, probably the best example, 20 times champion jockey. What he achieved is probably just never, ever going to happen again. And he went to heights that no one thought were possible. But even at the end of his career, when he was retiring, it felt like, when you watch that documentary about him, it's like he's not satisfied. Like there was more he wanted to do, and he wanted to hit 300 winners in a season. He wanted this, and then he was unhappy almost that he didn't get there. Is that a necessary thing for an athlete, do you think, to have that feeling of like dissatisfaction almost all the time?
Yeah, I think for an elite athlete, someone that achieves so much, you can't be satisfied, can you? Otherwise, I'm sure AP would have never achieved what he went on to achieve, go through all the hardship and pain, and like what he achieved was unbelievable. And it will never, for me, I don't think it will ever, because the chance of someone going that long, like he had so many injuries, but he just went through it and kept riding. Like the chance of someone going 20 years riding at that level, riding so many horses, to not have a long injury that will keep him out for a bunch of the season, that will stop him being him or her being champion, is as close to nearly impossible. It's not, nothing's impossible. It's nearly impossible. You know,
Yeah.
there's not someone going out to try and achieve that because it's so far away. People just try and win one.
Mm.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to stick with the sort of satisfaction factor, as it were. If you feel all the time that little bit of I'm not fully satisfied, and then let's say just using your own career as an example, you've got Mishriff and you've got Elder Elderov in the Irish St. Ledger on home soil, and you've got those really big, wonderful moments. How do you enjoy them then, and how can you try and maximize the enjoyment, actually take out of those what you should be taking if you've got that underlying sense of dissatisfaction? Is there like I don't want to say like a routine, but is there a way that you go about enjoying those big moments so that you can try and actually enjoy them rather than just looking for the next one?
I love it. I do enjoy things, and it's almost like someone opening a tap slightly and trickling out the water. You're getting that enjoy. Say me crossing the line, you get that buzz, that adrenaline that's like unmatched with any other feeling I've ever experienced. Especially, obviously, the bigger winners, you get more of a hype, more of a urge. Whereas it doesn't last forever for me. The best moment is the moment in the race while you're still competing against everyone else, but you know you're going to win. It
Mm.
can be 2 strides before the line. It could be 2 furlongs before the line. And from there to crossing the line and pulling up. Oh, it's unbelievable. Oh, I don't know what you'd call it. Be very expensive if you could buy it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Another thing I want to touch upon with you, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit briefly earlier, is the, let's say, a jockey trainer relationship. But I'm interested in the psychology of it. And this is kind of, I think, going to be a bit of a recurring theme because it's just something I'm really interested in, and interested in different perspectives. I feel like I might get a bit of heat when these go out because I probably come across as if I'm bashing trainers, which isn't my intention. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I do feel like
Who do you
when
work
you
for,
look at other
Adam?
sports, it doesn't matter. When, when you when you look at other sports, and you look at, and let's say Toto Wolff, for example, at Mercedes, you look at Alex
Yeah.
Ferguson at Man United, you look at different coaches in different spheres, you, one way or another, whatever their means are, how they achieve it, they're looking to maximize the potential of their athletes. So it might be an arm around the shoulder, it might be the hairdryer treatment, whatever it is. I feel like trainers maybe because they've got too much else on their plates from training horses, dealing with owners, but they don't seem to consider maximizing jockeys' potential. Like from the psychology standpoint, they don't seem to sit and think, what can I say to David Egan today to make him ride better, to give him that extra 1%? Am I completely wrong in that, or do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, but I think there's so many different ways to treat a jockey, because you talk about say football managers. I'm sure the likes of Alex Ferguson, Sir Alex Ferguson, would treat his players a lot different to what Pep Guardiola. They're both legendary managers, probably two of the best managers of all time. There's so many different ways to treat people to get the best out of them, whether that's putting them under pressure or making them feel like they're the best athlete in the world. For me, both of them work, and there's 100 different ways to act. You just talk about all the best managers and coaches in the world. They're all different.
And do you think, like, I don't know if you watch Formula One, but I was fascinated with how Red Bull in particular treated Liam Lawson this year. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit closer to horse racing than anything else I've seen, because it was like they threw a young kid in at the deep end. He made a couple of mistakes and it was like, you're out. And I feel like
Straight
everyone was
away,
going on
yeah.
about how cutthroat it was. And it was quite cutthroat. I felt like it was a bit harsh. And I'm not a massive Liam Lawson fan, but I did feel like he probably could have been given a bit more time. But I feel like that's quite similar to horse racing, but maybe it's not highlighted as much in horse racing
But for Liam
because it's just kind of
Lawson,
an expected thing.
he got the opportunity because they thought he was good enough, and he took the opportunity because he thought he was good enough. Got the chance, obviously wasn't ready. And for them, for Red Bull, it's such a big industry, they can't afford to. If they keep Liam Lawson on for the whole year and don't whatever, not that they go out of business, but it'd be detrimental to their whole organization. Whereas, wouldn't you be better off changing it, getting back up there, and then down the line, if Liam Lawson is good enough, then he'll get his chance again. Otherwise, he won't. That's quite extreme because there's only 20 drivers worldwide at one time, so it's a lot more. It's sort of more intense than let's say a jockey relationship. If a jockey loses a job, there is a lot of jobs out there at loads of different levels. Whereas in Formula One, if you want to make it, you've only got 9 more teams.
From an outsider's perspective, the last year or so, when you signed up for the Amo job, I think it'd be fair to say there would have been a couple of bystanders who would have gone, "Oh, not sure about that," just given what was portrayed, let's say, through the media from past jockey relationships with Amo Racing. Some of it probably unfair, some of it might have been justified. How did you feel stepping into that job, given your own personal relationship, let's say, with Kia, with the trainers that work for Kia, and what was portrayed in the media? How, because again, like from the outside, it might have been like, oh, this is risky. But did it feel like that for you, or did you feel like you stepped into that role fully comfortable and secure?
I had previous dealings with Kia and Amo Racing. I was lucky enough to ride a good few winners and have not a strong relationship with them, but an ongoing ride for them every now and then, have the odd success. I rode Mojo Star to finish second in the Derby while he was still a maiden, 200 to 1. That was probably a real, not a milestone, the horse didn't win, but a real like small achievement for them and for even for me to
Stepping
finish
stone.
second. Yeah, exactly. And then obviously the opportunity came up, and a tremendous team to work for, great horses to ride, and they've got horses in the top races, and that's what I want to be competing in. So I was going into, obviously I'd worked for Mr. Varian since I was 15 years old. It was a new change, new opportunity, but I think with new opportunity, your hunger and your eyes are opened even wider, and it's a new horizon. So I like to think I took it with both hands and committed 100%.
And tell me about the difference between a stable job, let's say, for Roger Varian to a retained job to an owner, because I've only ever worked for specific trainers, and it was very much you were obsessed with the 90, 100 horses they had in the yard, how you can maximize those horses, but then you obviously had the politics around I might not get on that one. I know I'm not going to get on that one. If I win on this one, I'm going to get jocked off it. You'd a whole different balance. And I'd assume you'd have had similar issues at Roger Varian's, because there would have been horses that were retained by certain owners, or just horses that certain owners preferred certain jockeys. And then you step into a role where it's like, basically, I know I'm going to ride all of these, but I've got to manage relationships differently because there's different trainers and so on. What's the biggest difference for a jockey between a trainer relationship and a retained rider relationship, let's say?
Probably, obviously, your relationship with the owner, probably. I think the relationship between a trainer and an owner would be a lot stronger. He's dealing with them on a daily basis, telling them how his horses are and whatnot. Whereas being a retained rider to an owner, you've probably slightly got that relationship as well. Speaking to them more closely. Whereas if I say when I was riding for Roger, most of the dealings with the owners would be between him and the owner. I'd rarely, if the owner wasn't there on the race day, there would be some occasions that I'd speak to the owner, but on a rare occasion, it just wouldn't happen, because that's just the way things are done. And that was great. And you just learn to adapt and change your point of view, and it's all natural. Now you don't even think of it, whereas you actually probably do have to change your be like liquid, as I said before, just adapt in your current situation. But both are great. There's no negatives or positives for any. They're both great opportunities, and I think you just have to adapt to your environment.
And another thing I want to know is, do you find it, because how many horses do Amo Racing have now? It must be up in the hundreds, surely.
Yeah.
And like, how do you, because again, if you're in the one yard and there's 90, 100 horses, you kind of, within a fairly short period of time, you'll have sat on pretty much all of them, or you'll have seen all of them gallop, and you know where their levels are and who owns them and where they're running. When it's 100 plus horses spread out across different yards, and you're only getting to gallop a handful here and there, how do you keep tabs on all that? Does that become hard work? Because I don't think I'd have the mental capacity to keep tabs on every single one of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of organization, whether that's going into ride the horses, work in the morning, or knowing where they're going. Whereas if you're riding for one specific trainer, he'll have it do his entries on a Monday, say, for Saturday, and there'll be, now that we can only do one meeting, you'll have a near enough guide very early on which horses are going to run where, and where the trainer would like you to go, and that's where you go. Whereas with an owner, having horses with lots of different trainers, every trainer has their own sort of prerogative where they want to run, what races they want to run in, and it's a little bit more organization, but I enjoy that side of it as well. I'm very hands-on. I'd like to say I do work hard in the mornings, and getting to know all the horses I think is very important, whether that's for Amo's main trainer Raphael Frere, who's in Freemason, or going around to the other yards all over the country. I kind of fit it around where I am a lot of the time. Say if I'm up in Yorkshire, I'll call into your old boss Mr. Fahey, or Charlie Johnson, or if I'm down south, might go down to Mr. Beckett's, or stuff like that. Kind of works itself out in a roundabout way. But no, I enjoy it.
When you go into Richard Fahey's, how many lots does he get out of you?
He's quite kind to me, I think. Probably a lot, not as busy as you were when you were there, that's for sure.
Because I always, obviously, when I was there as apprentice, you're doing like 9-10 lots a day. Could have been anywhere in between. Like, it depends obviously if you come racing.
Can't say I did 10 lots the last day I was there. I think you can vouch for
but
that. But
I remember there was a story when, because obviously he gets on quite well with Jamie Spencer, and I think it was maybe just before my time. He was kept asking Spencer to come up and ride out, and he kept putting it off, and eventually he did. But he knew Spencer was likely to do 1 or 2 lots and be like, right, I'm going home. So what he did was, and you'll know the layout, he drove him up he didn't put him on a horse. He drove him up to the top of the gallop and stood him at the top of the gallop and just basically kept bringing horses to him. So he couldn't get back down, and he ended up doing like 7 or 8 lots, which I think for Spencer would have absolutely fried his head.
Whereas he probably struggled to actually ride out 7, 8 lots back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's good psychology there from Fahey.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. Another thing I want to ask you is looking to the future, let's say, because you've had some serious accolades so far. Being champion apprentices, there's only a select number of jockeys that get their name on that list, and when you look through that list, generally speaking, the majority of them go on to be incredibly successful. It's a real stepping stone onto future success. You've had Mishriff in the Saudi Cup. You've had Irish St. Ledger winners among, other big winners, Lincolns, so on and so forth. What's the next ambition for David Egan? Is there something specific that you want? Is it a champion jockey? Is it a derby? Is there some goal in your mind that you really think in the next 5 years, I'd love to hit that target?
I think it's important to not to look too far ahead. Ambitions got to be within reach, within like a certain time limit. I don't think making plans for 5 years time, you don't know where any of us are going to be in 5 years time, even if we're going to still be here. So I like to do more plans in the short term and daily goals rather than actual long-term ones. Obviously, not riding a Group 1 winner last year was something that was on my mind and something that I'm very passionate in accomplishing that this year. That's a big goal of mine, say short term for this year. So that would probably be the biggest one.
So that's like a scratch you have to itch, you feel like, every year.
Absolutely, yeah. Not I've won Group 1s before, but I almost feel like I'm treating myself like I haven't won one before. Get the monkey off the back. That's goal number 1. Yeah.
And I'm assuming with the firepower that's been spent at the sales on behalf of Amo Racing, would you be? I think it's always a tricky one again for a jockey to answer, because money doesn't make horses run faster. But in theory, on sort of laws of averages, the money that's been spent should mean you've got better bred horses, better stamps of horses to go to war with in the future. Does that add more pressure for you? When you see big price tags, for example, does that add pressure, or is that something that you can brush off and just take each horse on its merits, let's say?
Yeah, no, it's not. Because a horse costs £1 million doesn't mean the pressure's enhanced. I put a lot of pressure on myself anyway. The cost of a horse makes no difference to me, really. It obviously shows that the horse has got a very good pedigree. Its conformation is very good. It was prepared in a good way. If it was a breeze up horse, it can obviously run fast. So I think being surrounded, growing up within Roger Varian's yard, being surrounded by such blue bloods from a young age, since when I came over from Ireland to England to Newmarket, it's what I'm comfortable with. Like sitting on a yearling, for the first person to sit on a yearling, and it cost a couple of 100,000. Like if I was someone who maybe wasn't used to that or comfortable with that, maybe I would think about it more. But I think it's just something that I've not grown up with. But from the age of 15, I've been riding quite expensive horses in general, so I'm very lucky in that regard.
And I suppose evidence, just, or for me anyway, there's been plenty of expensive ones I've sat on that you gallop and go, wouldn't have give you a fiver for this, never mind 500 grand.
Yeah, but a lot of the top ones were expensive as well. So
true, yeah. So it balances out.
Gives yourself a higher percentage of being successful, I think. Yeah.
Right, let's get a little bit more personal now. again,
Oh
this is
God.
going to be a recurrent theme, but I wanted to ask you how the love life is.
Yeah, love my family, and my friends, and everyone. There's no other half at the moment, but I'm guessing that's your question, is it?
That's surprising to hear, David, because you're such a good-looking, charming young man. I mean, I'd imagine one would imagine there'd be plenty of suitors like lining up in the old Instagram DMs to take you out for
Well,
dinner.
I think being very driven towards my job probably takes me back from that a little bit. I think any jockey, we've got such a busy schedule and stuff, you don't have time to socialize really. But what'll be, will be.
I feel like you're giving me a politician's answer here, David. Is this the
No, I
truth?
tell
Like,
you,
because I don't feel like
we have you always every time. It's probably something you're very intrigued in, my love life. Every time you seem to meet, whether that's at the races every couple of weeks, it's that's definitely one of the first questions you ask me, and it's normally the same answer.
I don't know about that now. You touched on it, and I think it is a fair point that obviously if you're career driven and as busy as you are, it becomes, well, you just simply don't have the time to deal with sort of romantic relationships. But in the occasions where you do have a romantic relationship and the job that you have,
Yeah.
how difficult is it? And is there, outside of just being busy and on the road a lot, is there other factors that kind of from your job that make romantic relationships more difficult, do you think? Because I always found, in my experience, any relationships I had when I was race riding, I was hard work. I wouldn't have made it easy
but
on them,
like
you know,
you
because
think, Adam, if we've had a bad day and we're going home, and say your other half, they might have had a perfectly fine day, nothing really, like nothing bad happened, nothing good happened, just a general everyday person just along the line. Whereas if you had a bad day and you're going home like a briar, aren't you? And you're acting like a little toddler throwing their toys out the pram, and that probably does have an effect. But I think it's important to leave your job at the door, I suppose. But I think that's easier when you're like older and you do have a stable relationship and you have, say, kids and stuff like that. I think it's easier to forget. Whereas for me, I've got nothing else at the moment but my career. So that's what I sort of strive to do and put all my focus on. And it's the days playing golf and the nights playing poker, the times where I probably don't think about it. Otherwise it's all racing.
And you mentioned, I think twice now as well, about being like water. Did you get that from Bruce Lee, by the way, the be like water?
Oh, probably unconsciously, probably.
I feel like you did.
Big fan of Bruce.
Yeah, I think it was him that said you to be like water, in the cup becomes the cup, something like that. Would that apply to, let's just say, I'm going to keep going with this because I find it entertaining. Let's say David Egan goes on a date. Is all the poker knowledge and the being like water in the cup, does that go on the date as well? Like, or are you able to?
Yeah, I probably know within 5 minutes
off?
whether I've got a chance or not. Yeah, I know. It's look, I'm probably overthinking it a little bit, but it's not it's all subconsciously, Adam. It's not I'm not trying to act a certain way. I'm not playing the game. It's just that's just me and what I've become. I'm almost, I'd say.
And another instant question, because let's say you were, I don't know if you are or not, if you're on old Tinder or a Hinge or one of them,
right?
What would
what
you?
are they?
You know exactly what they are. Don't lie. If you, and I'm assuming you probably are. If you were on Tinder or a Hinge, would you have a picture of you riding the winner as one of the pictures or not?
No.
Why not?
No, I wouldn't. It's not. You're not. I'd want someone to be with me for me, not just because I ride a horse or successful to a certain extent. So that'd be very important to me.
And is that something you have to be a little bit, say,
Slightly
mindful
mind,
of?
maybe, yeah. It's not saying anyone's out there to like get anyone or anything like that, but you do have to probably protect yourself to a certain extent. I think I'm sure when, say, professional Premier League football players start off, I'm sure they have somebody within their club or within their small circle that tells them to just be careful and don't make stupid decisions, or there is going to be people who are going to try and be, whether that's friends with you generally or want to have a relationship to some extent. I think you do have to I'm not saying I'm famous in any way. I'm not, I'm not like that, but um yeah, you're probably making me out to think like I'm some sort of psycho. But I'm nah, nah.
When you and I started, I think you were the year after me. So it was like 2015, 2016, 2017, around then. Um,
Yeah.
Say when we started and Instagram was kind of getting going, and obviously you had Facebook, and but subsequently Instagram, Twitter have blown up, TikTok's become a really massive thing. And we've seen it across other sports, whether it be Formula One, football, how they're kind of utilizing and monetizing the social media platforms. I think racing's really far behind in that. And part of the reason I feel is because when you and I started, if we put up a lot of content on social media, all the older lads would have been like, "What are you doing? You look like an absolute idiot." That's just not what jockeys do. It seems like it's changing now. And I want to know how mindful are you of, let's say, utilizing and monetizing your social media to sort of build a, what would you say, a commercial profile,
A
and to
brand,
enhance your own image and a
branding
brand. Yeah,
yourself,
exactly.
yeah.
Mm,
um I don't have a social media manager as such. There comes a point where I'm interactive. I do use your Instagram, your Twitter. I do enjoy looking at it and watching it. Negative messages from fans or punters or whatever doesn't really have an effect on me. I would be more conscious of what somebody thought who was sort of, whether that's what the trainer thought or my boss thought or what other people close to me thought, rather than um Jeff 2566667
mm,
9X or whatever, as you know. But I do keep people up to date. Like, I do like posting winners, my successes. I
mm.
do post them up on my story, but I can't remember the last time I posted something on my page, really. Big life achievements I would put up, nice days, but I wouldn't be posting weekly or anything like that. That would be not really me. I'm not really shove myself in other people's faces. If they want to look, it's there, and otherwise I'm not paying to promote my page on Instagram like others.
Do you like others?
Not
Who?
any other jockeys, just people in
Oh,
general
I
that
thought you
sell
were throwing
themselves.
shade there. I was getting
Well,
excited.
no, some people, some jockeys like put up like a little race card of where they're riding for the day, and it is very probably a lot more in your face look at me. But they've got social media managers who want to do that. They want to build their interaction and their yeah, clicks, I suppose. But
But do you not think that's important for the sport? Like on the back of,
it
say,
is, but
Formula
I
One
think
trying
I
to
can
survive, and
I think I can do enough for myself and for the sport that I am promoting myself, but it doesn't need to be in your face
invasive.
slightly.
Mm.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I don't want someone looking at my story and go, "Oh, here he is, another 6 rides at Kempton tonight," or whatever. It's like, Yeah, I'll put a winner up, and that's about it.
Fair enough. I'm going to leave it there. I could have stayed talking to you for a good while longer, and there's a lot more I would have probably dug into, but we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to leave it there. But it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and catching up with you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you go for the rest of the season. Like I said, there's a lot of big price tags to come out, and there's a lot of exciting ammunition for you to get on board this year. So
Yeah,
I'll be watching you with a lot of interest.